Welcome back, Shalloners. Well, you guys have been suggesting these two topics so often over the last week and the last few days. So I was like, okay, at first I was going to do a video on each and I'd let you guys vote on it on my Instagram. And then I'm like, I guess I can just do one. These are very similar. I could probably just do them in one. We're going to talk about how to deal with arguing with your boyfriend or girlfriend during quarantine and some weird stuff that surfaced with Michael Bublé on some live streams that show he might be kind of violent towards his wife, Luisana Lopilato, who's the cutest little princess person. She's just so cute. And how to deal with maybe a possible domestic violence situation. I'm going to give you some tips from doctors and some resources that you can contact to get help if you need it, because I'm not a doctor and I wish I just had like the Shallon helicopter, the Shallonopter, and I could just like scoop you guys up and just take you to the Maldives. Nothing bad happens in the Maldives. But first, before we get started, just want to remind you guys to click like and subscribe. We're doing a video every single day during quarantine. We've got some super fun topics coming up. Tiger King, I gotta watch that update video. And Jeff Lowe, who, like the dude with the bandana and the tigers in his suitcase so he could get laid, he just did a Reddit Ask Me Anything. So I'm gonna be going through that thing with a fine-tooth comb, bringing you the dirt. We're also going to be doing a quarantine glow up, maybe something on Reese Witherspoon, and, oh, most importantly, how to deal with family and tense family relationships during this time. Because like I said, I feel like we're all just reaching this tipping point in terms of sanity with this quarantine. We don't know when it's going to end. Finances are getting so strained for so many people. Our emotional resources are similarly strained, and it's just, I've just seen a lot of like weird behavior from people lately, and a lot of people reaching out and being like, I've hit a wall. I've hit a wall. Well, you know what? I'm a wall breaker. What machine breaks down a wall? A car? A backhoe? I have no idea. I'm not a technical person, but I am here for you. So first we're going to talk about how to deal with argumentation in quarantine. But before we do, also just want to remind you that if you have a love question of your own, find me on my website at shallonlester.com and click Get Help. And if you want a video shout out or a pep talk, find me on Cameo at ShallonXO. Okay, so let's talk about when maybe you're quarantined with a boyfriend or girlfriend. You thought you loved him when you went into this, but now by day 29, you're like, I'm going to go berserk. I get it. Like I said, we're all kind of at this snapping point. The weather is getting better. It's beautiful here in SoCal. It's like 80 degrees today, but I'm still inside doing a video for you guys. And that almost makes it tougher. It's like you want to be out. You want to be doing, like, be on the boat with your friends, be going to Mexico, just be going to brunch, be going to TJ Maxx. And that's not always the case. You're stuck inside with someone who perhaps the shine has worn way off. So these are my tips for fighting in quarantine without absolutely derailing your relationship. Number one, you know what I'm going to say. Peace versus victory. What are you after here? Right fighting is extremely destructive to a relationship. And right fighting means I am fighting to be right. I don't want peace. I don't want to build a more harmonious relationship. I want to be right. I've been a right fighter before, and it's incredibly destructive. That's very destructive. And so I've learned not to do that. And I've been lucky enough to have partners who were like, you're right fighting. I was like, thank you. But nope, okay. You're right about that. And sometimes saying you're right to someone you're in a fight with is too much. So when I get in that situation, I say objection sustained. It doesn't feel so much like a capitulation, but it's like, hey, okay, objection sustained. Sustained. I feel like I'm mumbling my words. Luisana Lopilato. There, that's good. That's so good. So don't right fight. Truly approach it from a spirit of collaboration. And one tip I've heard is to hold hands with your partner when you fight. And I'm a very icy person when I get mad. Like if you push me to the point where I am like mad, I don't want to touch you except with like the end of a Swiffer. Just get away from me. But it really does help because it helps reconnect you with your person. Touching someone you love releases oxytocin, the bonding hormones. It lowers stress. It lets you think about something a little bit more logically and from a standpoint of love and collaboration rather than just like, Another key thing is to differentiate between topics and issues. Are you arguing over topics or are you arguing over issues, like big issues? A topic is they didn't put the recycle bin out in the curb in exactly the place you said. They didn't do it. Yeah, so nice. Didn't end up there scratching his eyes out. That's a topic. The issue is if you would just do things right the first time. You know, the issue is larger. The issue is, I wish you could just have ownership of this task so that I didn't have to be the heavy in this relationship and act like your mom, because it's actually not super sexy. You can figure out how to take the trash out. We've lived here long enough. That's the issue. But you got to get to the root of that and then be like, hey, I know it seems like I'm like crazy about the recycling bin, but it's because I feel like I'm doing everything else here and I feel like the balance in our relationship is off. So if you could take ownership of some of these household tasks, I would feel less like mom and more like girlfriend, and girlfriend has sex with boyfriend. Mom doesn't have sex with boyfriend. See what I mean? Put it in terms he can understand. Say, if you change X, your benefit will be Y. Also, make sure that you're not saying things you are. Speech is very important. How we choose our words and what we say to people is very difficult. One of my smartest friends, Whitney Hedrick, she's a YouTuber. Go follow her beauty channel. She's awesome. She's so smart and so adorable. We were talking the other day and she's like, and I mentioned this in another video, she's like, there's the thing that you're mad about, like the thing, but then so much of the time, trying to get back to the happy place involves undoing what you said in the aftermath. So there's the recycle bin that's not in the corner. That's the thing. But then the additional suffering is, you are so stupid. Can you not just put a recycle bin? It's the character attacks. It's the you are. It's the lack of collaboration. But again, if you can reframe that as, hey, when you fail to do this, it makes me feel like I'm running this house alone and I feel very emotionally abandoned by you. And then when you have a problem for me, I don't want to hear it. It like makes me back away from you and it makes me dial down my empathy and my connectivity to this relationship. If a guy hears that and he still chooses, he's like, no, I'm going to put it right in the same place, the wrong place. Then you have data. It's like, okay, this person is doing something to annoy me. And now you have data about this relationship and you can log that as a data point. And overall, you should just be logging data about your relationship in general. I don't think it's normal or healthy for people to spend 24 hours together, no matter what their relationship. Parent and child, husband and wife, best friends. It's not healthy. We need a mix. I always say we're tribes people. Well, tribes are more than two folks, right? Tribes are a mix of people, and you got to get that diversity. We don't usually have just one friend. We don't usually watch one show, one YouTube channel, maybe just mine, wear one kind of clothing style, eat one kind of food. We diversify, and we have to do that with people too. So recognize that just because you are on each other's nerves now, that doesn't mean your relationship is doomed. Not at all. Just log that as data. Be like, okay, now I know 15 days together is a bad idea. So that 3-month backpacking tour around Europe we want to do next year, maybe not a great idea. Like maybe we should modify that a little bit, you know? Or I need my alone time in the morning and he needs his alone time at night. We're going to log that as a data point. So now when we plan dates, I have more understanding when this whole thing is over. I have more understanding about myself and about him. And one tip that I have found works really well when I've just gotten annoyed with people, like my last boyfriend, we traveled a lot together. I'm a very high level traveler. I travel a lot. I know how to do it. Like my mom was a flight attendant. Like I got this shit down. And he was a little bit newer. Like he traveled a lot, but just like, I don't know, traveling's different. It's like everyone kind of does it their own way. And there's a right way and a wrong way. And honestly, my way's right. My way's just more efficient. Just listen to me. It's more efficient. But traveling is stressful. It's stressful. There's a reason people cry on planes. You know that that's like a truism. Like I've cried on like every plane I've ever been on. It's a combination of like dehydration and the altitude, the air's thin, and also just traveling is jarring. It can be dangerous. It can be expensive, and you're stressed about that on some level. Anyway, so we would get into like tiffs, like when we would travel sometimes, and before I would get nitpicky and annoyed about where he put the bar of soap in the hotel room, if it was on the soap dish or if it was just on the counter, because it sticks and it's hard to get out. I would ask myself, if Becca was doing this, would you be this annoyed? If my best friend was doing this, would I still be like, and that helps me differentiate between topics and issues, between naggy and nitpicking and being a little type A and being a control freak, and it being something that like, no, this actually doesn't sit right with me. Because when I was like, I would not care where Becca put the soap. I would maybe be like, I wouldn't have put it there, but it wouldn't like, it wouldn't rankle me the way it is now. So in quarantine, when you feel like you're just gonna yank his ears off, ask yourself, if my best friend or somebody you would think you miss and prefer to be with, if they were doing this, would I be reacting the same way? If the answer is no, maybe is it kicking up something deeper inside? Is this indicative of not a topic, but an issue? What is that issue? And how can I sit him down in a neutral time, not when the recycling bin tipped over because the garbage can couldn't pick it up, not when the soap is stuck on the counter, but in a neutral time, when can I sit him down and be like, hey, here's some grievances I've been collecting. I have them in a mason jar. And I just want to talk to you about them because I feel like they're starting to fester. And I just want to get it out because there's a topic that's going on. And actually there's an issue underneath it, right? So just take a deep breath. This too shall pass. Also realize that like everyone is just kind of doing the best they can. Hopefully they are. I have seen people act very weird lately, just very weird online, and my friends just in real life. I'm in a fight with a boy I'm dating over fish. Like tuna fish, like a tuna. It's the dumbest fight in the world, but we're all sort of like on this existential edge and we don't know it yet. And or if we do, we don't feel like we can stop it because our normal coping mechanisms have been disrupted. We can't go and take a walk even sometimes. We can't go get laid. We can't order our favorite food, whatever. It's a really, really difficult time. So what you're going through as a couple now might not be the end of the road. So avoid saying those things that are going to compound whatever the initial problem is. Back away. If you're just texting a guy and you find yourself getting in tiffs, it's okay. People come back up. They take their space away and they come back up. Dating behavior now and human behavior now is truly unprecedented. Truly, this has never happened before. This is uncharted territory. So everyone is just kind of like feeling their way through the dark. So give someone else grace that maybe they're not doing the best. Maybe you're not doing the best either. And then when this is all over, you can get back together, talk again and see, hey, are we still compatible? Do I still like you? And try not to hold all of the grievances, whether they're about recycling bins or peanut butter or tuna, against someone in this time. And we're all just going to try to give not only other people the benefit of the doubt, but ourselves the benefit of the doubt and realize we are handling something truly mass traumatic and we can get through it just by a little bit of self-awareness and a little bit of self-compassion. But let's talk about Michael Bublé and Luisana Lopilato. First of all, okay, so they have been live streaming a lot during this quarantine. Who asked for that? Well, her fans probably did. I assume they don't need to see him in there because he's looking older. Not like Michael Bublé was ever the jawline guy. He was never that. He was always like the congenial dude, but he just looks kind of hungover in all of his stuff, and she looks perfect. You know, just she looks so cute. Okay, so somebody posted a clip of him acting well. Just take a look and see.
Hola chicos, hola chicos, hola chicos, yo soy Miguel Burbuja, en mi muy.
Let's watch that again.
Hola chicos, hola chicos, hola chicos, yo soy Miguel Burbuja, en mi muy.
Okay, so people are like, problematic. And the person who posted this said, tell me what you think of this. To all of us, it's clearly a man being abusive with his wife, the way he grabbed her by the arm. That's Michael Bublé. She keeps on denying it, but there's so many videos of him treating her the same way. I haven't seen any of these videos. I'm not like a Michael Bublé stan. He just sort of like is there. But this comes up a lot that like he does sort of weird things with his wife. He treats her poorly. So on one hand, you think it's not normal to like jab your wife in the ribs like you're an 11-year-old boy and then yank her around. And then on the other, a lot of people are saying it just looks kind of like they're roughhousing, and this just might be sort of how their relationship is. They're just kind of like jokey and playful like this. And almost, if you can see the look on his face when he elbows her, he kind of looks at her like, oh shit, I messed up. Like, ooh. And then he's like yanking her back and like putting his arm around her like he's trying to cover for it. I have never dated a guy who hasn't accidentally like smooshed my hand, like sat on my hand or something, you know, or just like taken a joke too far and then like, oh no, like what have I done? Like, and so I hope, I'm a faithful person and I hope that that's the case with this, that maybe he was just like overzealous and didn't realize how hard he hurt her or hit her and like yanked her back and didn't realize how hard he yanked her back and then put his arm around her and he's just like, I'm a big doofus. That's what I hope. Obviously, what we fear is this is a red flag indicative of other issues in their relationship. I hope not, you know? And she's just so cute. She deserves a good dude. But I've heard some things about Michael Bublé. Not violent things. Cheater things. I know what you're thinking. A man like Michael Bublé, who looks as Michael Bublé does, he's not unhandsome, he's not unattractive, but she is like, I mean, come on, he's way out of his pay grade with her. And it's like, you cheat on her? She's not enough for you? That's crazy, bro. But I've heard that he hooked up with Catherine McPhee. What does that girl do in bed? Because she married pretty darn rich. She married like the old man of the sea. But I don't know. So yeah, I've heard that he has cheated on her with Catherine McPhee and that he kind of horn dogs around town, which is really sad. They've got 3 little kids and their one son went through that awful cancer situation and thank God came out of it on the other side. But are there any good men left? You know, sometimes you just got to ask yourself. So Luisana, I hope I'm saying it right. Luisana responded to me in what I'm sure is a cute accent. She said this in an Instagram live. Thank you for worrying about me. It's very important that we pay attention to the concerns that were mentioned. Fortunately, I am not suffering. It's important we continue to pay attention so we are able to help the women that are going through a bad time. It made me very happy to see the level of awareness my followers have with the topic. I'm proud to be Argentinian. I hope that's Argentinian. I know, you know it's not. I don't know. And your messages demonstrate to me once again that all of the love you have for me and us. So thank you. But this is not my case. And she also responded a different time. She said, she posted like a quote meme, said, always do the right thing and let God handle the consequences. She posted it in Spanish. And then she added in the caption, I want everyone to know that I have no doubt who my husband is, and I would choose him again a million times over. So, okay. And then the rep chimed in and said, anyone who watches them on Facebook Live every day, they do this every day. That is a lot of buble. That's a lot. As I'm saying this, I realize I do a video every day, but this is my full-time job. Bublé's only supposed to come out at the holidays from his his holiday cave. Anyone who watches them on Facebook Live every day can see that this is a beautiful partnership filled with love. So who knows? One thing I've learned as I've gotten older and watched my friends get married to people who I couldn't stand is that everyone has a different rubric. Everyone has a different rubric for what works for them and what doesn't. One of my best friends who has been married the longest, got a bunch of kids, on paper, perfect, beautiful, perfect. I would have thrown that husband of hers over a balcony by now. Absolutely. I mean, just the way he talks her, Lauren, come over here. Like, I couldn't handle that. And one time I was like, do you hear how he calls your name? And she's like, oh, I don't even notice that. My brother would always call me like that. And I was like, oh. So to her, that wasn't a big deal. But then in my previous relationship, she pointed out something and she's like, I don't know how you deal with that. And I was like, oh, well, that doesn't bother me. It's like not something I even noticed. And I'm not making excuses for violent people because that's on a whole separate side of the fence, right? I've been in a domestic violence situation. I've dated someone violent. When I was in that situation, it was with someone I had known half my life. It was my first love. And for him to be one day so just crack, because no one slaps you on the first date, right? No one punches through a wall your first night together in a hotel room. That usually doesn't happen. It's a build. There's a whole pathology to this, and there's a ton of resources to help you sort out what's normal and what's not. I always direct you guys here, go to Psychology Today and just Google domestic violence. Search that on the site. There's so many good articles from doctors, from people who've been through it, from counselors, there's a lot. But in my experience, it was very much, I say it was out of nowhere, but there were red flags in his character for sure. He played a lot of sports growing up, and he almost attacked a referee one time. He threw a lawn chair, and I was like, and you kind of chalk it up as boys will be boys, just a youthful hothead. And for some people, yeah, they do grow out of that, and other people don't. They grow into it. And that's what he did. He grew into it. And he grew into the belief that he was allowed to act however he wanted at all times, no matter who was around. And he did that with me. And so one night when he snapped and beat me up, it was under the argument of, you made me so mad. Look what you did, Shallon. Look what you did to me. And isn't that the great call of all abusers? You did this. If you had just listened to me, I wouldn't have had to do this. You made me so mad. And then it translates to, well, I know that was wrong, but you made me so mad. That was his apology. I know that was wrong and I didn't want to hurt you and I love you, but you made me so mad. What do we say about the word but? But means, forget everything I just said. Let me tell you what I actually think. Let me tell you the truth as I see it. So, I love you, I didn't mean to hurt you, but you made me mad? Bro, save yourself the syllables and the breath. Just say, you made me mad. And I hit you because I wanted to. Because I don't know how to communicate. Because I'm a deficient beta male. Blah, 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 blah. I would have rather just heard that. But I didn't just hear that. I heard what I believed was me being at fault. And so because I heard that, I thought, well, how could I leave this person? I love him. He's clearly the one in pain. There's the Rihanna song. We've talked about this when we've talked about Rihanna. Her song, Stay. And there's this line in there. I found myself drawn to that song after that episode with my ex-boyfriend. This was a long, long time ago. It wasn't a recent ex, don't worry. Because there's a line in there that's funny, you're the broken one, but I'm the only one who needed saving. And I was like, oh my God, that's so how it felt. And I'm sure that this song came after the Drake thing, and maybe that's why I was drawn to it. Like, I felt like it was about Drake or that violent situation where it was like, no, don't worry about me. He's the one in pain. I'm okay. Yeah, I got hit, but that's going to heal. Look what I did to him. Look how bad I am. That thing that I said, that towel I didn't pick up, man, that really is bad. I am so unlovable. So how could anyone be with me? How could I leave him? First of all, he needs me. He's sick and he's hurting. He's in pain, not me. And second, how could I leave him? Because who's going to love me? I'm so awful and I'm so incendiary that I drove a sane man to violence. And you know I'm a bad bitch, right? And I'm pretty smart and I'm pretty high level in terms of psychology and cognition and stuff like that. I not only believed that, I told that to other people. I believed it so much, I used that as an argument. And I remember sitting down with one of my best guy friends from high school, Sam, and I was pouring the story out, and he's like, you have to get away from him. And I was like, no, he needs me, and blah, blah, blah. I poured it all out. And he happened to be volunteering at a battered women's shelter at the time. And he looked at me, I will never forget this look. It was so withering. He's like, do you know how many times a day I hear that story? Exactly the story that you're telling me. I mean this with love. You're not special. And I was like, he came from my neck. And that it was an epiphany because I really thought, oh no one's actually ever come up with this argument. No one else thinks this. This is why I have to stick with him because I'm right. Like he really does need me. And Sam was just like, I heard it. I done heard it. And that like woke me up because then I'm like, holy shit, this isn't special. This isn't a complex situation. This is simply a violent person. Simply a violent person. And you know what I realized after that? Even if it was special, even if no battered woman on the face of the earth has ever had this thought, had ever engaged in that dynamic, who cares? Who cares if that was special? It's still violent. It was still me on eggshells, me being afraid of him, me feeling ashamed of myself, me being afraid to say anything, me feeling then at other points incredibly vengeful and wanting to hurt him, you know? Like I wanted to get a gun and shoot his head off, of course. Like, hello, someone comes for you and beats you up. And it's like, take away everything else. Take away what society says about it. Why be in a relationship that makes you feel like that? How is that better than being single? And we talk about that a lot here on this channel. How is a fuckboy, a ghoster, a bad friend, an abusive person, how is any of that better than being alone? And if we truly do think, no, that is better than being alone. I don't want to be alone with my thoughts. Okay. But at least we know that's where we got to start. Not with the people, not with the toxic friends, not with the drugs, not with the alcohol, not with the compulsive shopping, not with the weird online behavior and selfies. We got to start inside. And we can do that. And it feels overwhelming, but it's actually not. It just means you got to get on the path, right? And in this quarantine, this is kind of, I mean, it's obviously a terrible time for mental health and we're all stuck in here and going crazy, but it's good because there's more telemedicine than ever. And so your doctors are more likely to kind of fast track you to a counselor that you can text with, that you can do Skype chats with. So really look into that. Go into your insurance, don't even try to go on the website. Websites, when you have to deal with insurance, just make me insane. They're so circular. Call your insurance, talk to a person, be like, hey, I'm in pain. I need to talk to someone ASAP. Also, if you're going through a domestic violence situation, I want you to, you can call the domestic violence hotline. We're going to put the number right here. And you can, sometimes it's difficult to get away and find a quiet place to make a phone call when someone knows you're probably calling someone for help who's like the enemy. So you can also text them. You can text them 22522 and you can text love is to 22522 and they can connect you with a counselor. They can get you resources. They can tell you where shelters are because they've got a whole set of parameters in place during this quarantine because this is not a good time for a lot of women and a lot of men who are in, you know, domestic partnership situations and gay men, straight men, you know, abuse is abuse and you shouldn't be abusive and violent to anybody. No. So I've been doing some research on like how to deal with domestic violence in these situations. And it's disheartening because you just want like that BuzzFeed listicle, boop, 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 fixed. And it doesn't work like that. It's such a hard issue and it's such a dangerous, volatile issue. And to be trapped in a house with someone who is, maybe they're threatening you. Maybe they're like, oh, you want to go, you think you're going to go get groceries? What, so you can leave me? I don't fucking think so. You leave, I'm changing the locks. You're not coming back in. Have fun sleeping in the park or sleeping on the street and getting COVID. If you do this to me, I'll make sure you die alone in a hotel room. You know, people have a whole new threat to lovey over you at this time. And that threat is very real. You maybe can't go to your family's house, to your friend's house, to a hotel. Maybe you've lost your job and that's not a financial option anymore, but there are options for you. So really text these numbers, call these numbers. There are resources, I promise you. I'm not a therapist, I'm not a counselor. So I'm very hesitant to give like advice on how to deal with violent men. I mean, what I want to say is just like, lock them in the bathroom, you know, just like throw them into a hole in the backyard, but it's not always realistic. Not all of us have shovels. Holes take a very long time to dig. I've tried. But there is one tip I came across on Psychology Today that I thought was really helpful. They called it defense by distraction. Because one thing, if you've been in a violent situation with someone, or even, not even a violent person, just like a friend who makes you walk on eggshells, you're on eggshells and you don't want to tick them off. You don't want to set them off. You don't want to poke the nest. Defense through distraction, they say, is good because it keeps someone distracted. So maybe it's, hey, we're going to cook a big dinner tonight. I'm going to make you a real special meal. So I'm going to be in the kitchen for 2 hours. And you can go, honey, you go in the backyard and you have a beer and you just chill out. Or, hey, let's start doing this crossword puzzle together. Let's start doing this together. Let's clean out our closets. Let's binge this show. Keep someone distracted so that they can't dwell. And they said that a big trigger that's happening right now is control through technology, which is really interesting. That abusers want control. You know, that's what they want more than absolutely anything else. And they're finding ways to do it because it's like, oh, well, I can't keep her home right now because she has to stay home, or I can't tell her when she can come home from work or what friends she can see because she's stuck here, but I'm still going to find a way to turn the screw. So that's going to be, I control the remote. I control the thermostat. I control when the laundry is done because then she can't take a shower because she doesn't have any towels. So if this is happening, recognize it for what it is, because then it's going to make you feel less crazy, and use this time to make a plan. Maybe it is not logistically feasible that you leave right now. I get it. And it's hard to weigh. It's like, well, I'm stuck in house with someone who is 80% going to hit me, but then what's my percentage of leaving and getting corona? Is that 80%? Is it 10%? Like, we don't know. So we're stuck between a rock and a hard place a lot of times in these situations. Use this time to make a plan. Look at your financials. Get out your credit card bill. Look at where you've been spending your money. Financial freedom is the only freedom, right? And if you don't have that, you're probably going to be stuck with an abusive person. There are resources. Look into loans, look into microloans, look into loans for women in small business. Call the domestic violence hotline and ask them like, hey, are there emergency loans for people like me to get into a safer shelter situation? Make some plans for your job. Write up your resume, get it ready to go. Draft that letter to your boss asking for a raise, maybe a transfer so you have a reason to leave town. There's things that you can do now that don't feel like they're paying off, that they don't feel like they're hugely changing the situation. And to some degree, they're not, because you can't change this other person. You can't get away from them. That just might be the reality of the situation. But you can change what you're doing on your side of the street, right? And that's going to give you a feeling of empowerment and control. And what does that person want to take away from you? Control. So you can do some things to ameliorate your suffering now. It's not going to take it away completely, but you're going to step back into the self that you used to know. This is also an excellent time to reconnect with people. Friends who maybe you pushed away because he made you. Number one thing an abusive person does is isolate, right? That's what they want to do. And isn't this a great chance to isolate people? It is, but it's also a great chance to reconnect without having to be like, okay, let's go to coffee. You know, I don't know how I'm going to fit that in. He wants me home by 5:30. You can just be texting and you can be shoring up your emotional connections that maybe had lapsed. This is a good time. Everyone's reaching out. How have you been? What's going on? I'm sorry I was like this. It's also a good time to let your friends know what's going on. If you're like, hey, I thought maybe being quarantined with this dude was going to be fun, but he's taken a turn. So I'm really scared. I need your guys' help. Even if you have a truck or a van that I could sleep in, if one of your parents' houses is uninhabited, please let me know. Get your tribe together, right? It's very scary to think you're going to maybe leave this person or get out of this situation and not have any place to go, right? That's difficult. For more, click like and subscribe. We're doing a video every single day.